Good morning, everyone. My name is Tammy Gabriel, and I will be your RAP co-facilitator for the next 5 days. How exciting! I'm really grateful that you're all here, taking another step in your RAP journey. RAP is very personal to me. I am a person in recovery, and I started out my recovery journey using only 12-step program. I won't knock the 12-step program by any stretch of the imagination. I do believe that everyone needs to use what works for them, hence RAP. Um, this is my RAP book. But my story, and I think if Matthew Federici is watching this, he may remember the little summary that I wrote after I took RAP 2 with him in Montgomery County. That when my mother had died about a year after I entered into a pretty serious recovery. I do believe that I've always been in recovery. But when I decided to stop using drugs and alcohol to support my recovery, my mother died about a year after. And I really struggled with getting solace in the 12-step program. At that time, I had done a RAP as part of my CPS training. I don't know that I ever really looked at it again until I needed to. And I was working as a CPS, and I was not really using a whole lot of RAP with the participants either. And I started to take it seriously, and it saved me. I was able to really look at it and determine what was working for me and what wasn't working for me, and how was I going to get through this grief that was almost debilitating me. So I did, and it led me to other recovery models, and it led me to other folks in recovery who would be able to support me in a way that was really necessary, and it was just something I wasn't getting in the 12-step program. So RAP saved my life. Whenever I facilitate a RAP group, I use this. This is my first RAP. And as you can see, it's pretty beat up. This is my RAP from when I took my CPS certification several years ago, 5 or 6 years ago. Look how little itty bitty it is. And this is my first RAP workbook. And it's colored and all kinds of fun stuff. So typically I do like to share this with the class, and I do a lot of instructing from this because I feel like it's important to practice what I preach. As you can see, it's a little bit worn up and worn out, but it still works. And I kind of look at that like my recovery. Sometimes I get beat up, but I still work. So what I love most about RAP is Mary Ellen Copeland's mother's story about her revelation to understanding that she needed to decide what worked for her, self-determination, right? So that became really important to me. And I remember very clearly in my RAP 2 training with Matthew Federici, being very impressed by the idea of someone saying, yes, you may be uncomfortable in this class. You may be uncomfortable a lot for the rest of your life because it's part of life. And there is a way for you to take personal responsibility in that. And I just felt like, wow, that made a lot of sense, because there were moments in my recovery and while I was working where I thought, sometimes I feel like there's a lack of respect for the individual's ability to handle uncomfortable situations. And that I love that we were able to identify what supports were helpful for us while we were in the training. So it was eye-opening to hear someone say, "Hey, you know, I play on my phone. That's what keeps me from losing my train of thought, and it keeps me focused." And I thought, wow, this is great. So now I know, sitting next to that person, if I'm getting distracted or I feel uncomfortable, that there's something that, one, I can pay attention to their needs and also pay attention to my needs if it's distracting me, and I can do something about it. And doing something about it does not mean asking them to change their recovery. So I really appreciated that. And I believe that is part of the 5 key concepts of recovery, right? And I love, so it's the second part of that is personal responsibility. First one is hope, personal responsibility, education, self-advocacy, and support. And we will review those. We will probably talk a little bit about Mary Ellen Copeland, and then we'll review the 5 key concepts of recovery, and we'll talk a little bit about what they mean to you and how you identify with those words specifically. And then we're going to jump into the RAP workbook, or the Wellness Recovery Action Plan. I don't think I've said that yet. Actually, I'm going to grab, I left my cup of tea over there. And part of my recovery is that I really like, when I'm talking or when I'm facilitating or I'm doing something new, I feel really comforted by having hot tea. So, and it's a cute little owl. My mom loved owls, so this reminds me of my mom a little bit. So anyway, we're going to get started with the first part of RAP, which is your wellness toolbox, which, as you can see, I have a very, very, very long list of tools. And I continue to add, and I continue to, believe it or not, I continue to delete. This is my general RAP that I still do use. But I also have a bunch of other RAPs. So I have RAP for work, I have RAP for romantic relationships, I have RAP for my siblings, you name it. I have a RAP for raising my children, you name it, I have a RAP for it. So this is my wellness toolbox, and this is a list of all of the things that I do to stay well, essentially. And it can be anywhere from needing to take a shower every day. Well, actually, we'll get to that. But so needing to take a shower, showering is a wellness tool of mine. Listening to music is a wellness tool of mine. Watching comedy is a wellness tool of mine. Getting a pedicure, napping, walking my dog. I still have Call My Sponsor on here. Probably have to remove that. But maybe change the word sponsor to something else, because I do use people for support. So we're going to take this time. I do apologize, because I'm like sort of trying to figure out how to communicate to you all, but also like actually do a mock training. So wellness toolbox, at this portion of the training, we will ask everyone to throw some ideas at us. What do you do? What are some of your wellness toolbox? What are some of your wellness tools that you put in your toolbox? And sometimes we'll actually let the class make a toolbox, or sometimes not let, but we'll ask if they want to use an actual toolbox, if they want to bring in a toolbox. if they want to make a toolbox out of construction paper. Um, and so every class is different, and everyone has different ideas about how they want to put tools in their toolbox. So that's usually the time when we do that. And so we're going to move to the next part, which is our daily maintenance plan, which includes what I'm like when I'm well, what I need to do every day to stay well, and things that I might need to do. So we will go over what I'm like when I'm well, and I do share again with them some of the things just to give people an idea of, what they can put on there. They don't have to put on there what I have on there, but just give them a little bit of an idea of, some words that I use to describe me when I'm well. Happy, joyful, playful, rested, full, compassionate, empathetic, loving, motivated, diplomatic, patient, thoughtful. The list is pretty long. So typically we'll ask people to make a list and then, share it with the class or share it with their table, depending how large our group is. And then we'll go on to what we need to do every day to stay well. Some of the things I have on there are right in my journal. And sometimes I forget, believe it or not. It's something that I need to do every single day, and I try to do every single day, and sometimes I actually forget to do it. Then there are things, this is funny because this is kind of an older version, things I might need to do. So things that I might need to do, I like to describe it as things that I may do weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, semi-annual, but at least there is a component of regularity in the things I might need to do to stay well. So I have things like go roller skating. I don't do that every day. I probably don't do that every month. I hope to do that every year. And sometimes I know that it's something that I probably need to do for myself because it brings me so much joy. And so you'll get to play with this a little bit, and maybe it might find its way back to what you need to do every day, or maybe it might just sort of fall off the list. The sky is the limit here, really. And then, where am I? I'm sorry. And so also, I'm sorry. So that is completes the portion of our what I'm like when I'm well. I actually am a little nervous. It's so weird because I have no problem speaking to a group of people, but when I'm looking at a video, I get a little nervous. And it's just me in this room by myself. So anyway, so we are at the next portion of the Recovery Action Plan, our Wellness Recovery Action Plan, which is triggers, which we are no longer calling triggers and we are calling stressors. So it's a list of things that are external that could make me feel uncomfortable. For example, I have on there, I don't like when I don't get my way. I don't like when people tell me no. I don't like when I have ideas and someone says no to me. I take it personally. So I have learned over time that that's something that really bothers me, and it's not something that I have control over. If I ask someone for something or make a request for something or have an idea for something and it gets turned down, I get really upset. And I don't know that it's obvious and clear to the person who has told me no, but because I've gotten better at not showing that. But so that's something that is external that I don't have control over, and it makes me uncomfortable and upset. So the next portion of our Wellness Recovery Action Plan helps us identify what we can do when we are feeling external stressors. Um, and so I usually, when I'm talking to the class or the group, I will share with them what I do in that situation, what my action plan is for feeling triggered by not getting my way, essentially. Um, and that's not something I can always deal with immediately. So I've learned, and on my action plan, it says to take time. Take time before responding. Don't react. So that is my action plan for that specific trigger. Um, and what I typically do is go back to my wellness toolbox and look and see what's in there. Maybe there's something in there that I can use, or if I wrote something down that's not in my wellness in my toolbox, then perhaps I can put that on there. That something that makes me feel well. Back to my wellness toolbox is responding and not reacting. So I actually had to use that. I didn't have to, but I took that and thought, wow, that's not in my toolbox. Let me put that in my toolbox because it might be useful later. Um, the next portion of the Wellness Recovery Action Plan is early warning signs. And early warning signs are different in the sense that my coworkers think it's funny to wave at me in a window and make funny faces, and I think they're funny. So early warning signs are things that I notice about myself that let me know that I'm not feeling well. A sign. It's just a sign that, hey, maybe you might want to take a step back and look at your wellness toolbox. And what are those signs for me? A stomach ache is a pretty good sign that something is a little off and that maybe I need to go back and look at what my triggers were and what happened, and see the actual sequence of events that got me to this place. That might be something to do later, but typically, if I have an early warning sign, I will grab my wrap immediately and say, okay, how'd we get here? Um, but the next step to supporting myself through those early warning signs is a early warning signs action plan. So it's a little bit more, I don't want to use the word intense, but it's sort of like a bigger step than just the stressor action plan, right? Because if my stomach hurts, I can't say, well, just respond, don't react. I actually have to dig a little bit deeper and maybe use action plan that's a little bit more than just taking a deep breath. So typically, that is a sign that I need to review what happened. That for me, like that's something that I need to do. I need to review what happened and how did I get there. But I also have things like, hey, maybe this is really a time to just do something special for myself, like get a pedicure. Again, I go back to that wellness toolbox and I look and I say, what would fit in here? What would go with sleep disturbances? How would I, support myself through that? And that would, for me, I would go back to my wellness toolbox and say, so what's in here that I could use for this action plan? And if it's not in there and I come up with something, I can add it to my wellness toolbox, which I love because I can just keep adding and adding and adding to it. And things are breaking down. Now, this is getting a little serious. And it means that I'm feeling much worse. It's more than a stomach ache. Maybe I've actually called out of work. And I'm not talking to my friends and I'm not picking up my phone and I'm not walking my dog. I'm just letting her out to go to the bathroom. Um, and maybe I'm not really all that hungry, or I might be ignoring some areas of my life that need attention. Maybe I'm not really opening my bills. Um, and so, just like the stressor action plan and the early warning sign action plan, there is an action plan for when things are breaking down. Um, and so typically, if things are breaking down, again, I will go to my wellness toolbox and see if there's anything in there that can help me through this. And if not, I will add what I think goes in there to it. So for my wellness action plan, or I'm sorry, when things are breaking down action plan, I usually like to take a couple days off work. Maybe increase the amount of times I see my therapist for the next couple months. Or pick up the phone and tell my friends the truth. And this has happened where I've, held off on asking for help, and then I called my friends when things were actually breaking down for me. And a good sign for that is my sleep. So I will give my friends a call and say, hey, can you just come over? Can we have a girls' night? I think I really just need to be around some friends. And sometimes that works. Most of the times it does work. Because I actually haven't really had a whole lot of time to take care of myself, because I'm doing a lot of work for other people, which I love to do, but sometimes I'm actually not paying attention to work that I need to do for myself. So we are finally at the crisis plan portion, and I am at 22 minutes, so I hope I can get this all done in 8 minutes. So the first part of the crisis plan is what I'm like when I'm well. Again, you'll write a little bit about how you feel when you're well. Happy, funny, well rested. I keep commitments. And then we go right into part 2, which is what are the signs that people need to take over? For me, it would probably mean that I haven't answered my phone for a couple days. I have not even taken my dog out for a walk or even to go to the bathroom. I may be letting her go to the bathroom in the house. I'm not showering, and maybe possibly I am using drugs, and that would probably be a pretty big indicator that someone needs to take over. And so part 3 names all of the people who in my life who I would like to participate and help me and help me take over, with their phone numbers, which I think is really great. And what I love about this is it's very similar to my birth plan. What I don't want, who I don't want involved, and why I don't want them involved, and how to settle disputes between those people, if one person thinks one way and the other. So who has the final say? And I really like that. I don't know how they'll feel about it if they're reading it, but fortunately for me, I have not had a crisis in several years, 7.5 years. It's been since I've had an actual crisis. So, and I do feel like that's because I've paid very close attention to my RAP. Part 4, medication. Love this one too. I don't want anything that could cause my brain to think, wow, that tastes really good, that feels really good, I want more of that. So I have it very clearly on here, the medications that I take. And then there's several other parts of part 4 with the medications, and the medications I would prefer to take, the medications that would be acceptable. Maybe I'm not really all that, enthused about those medications, but if it's necessary, perhaps. And then medications that it's a absolutely positively no. And what would I want them to do? Part five is what would I want these people to do as an alternative to medication if medication's not available? And also treatments that I would want to avoid. I have on here ECT, no way. Part six, where do I want to stay? I made it very clear that I do not want to be admitted to a hospital, and I'd really like to stay with my friends or in a respite if that's possible. And if it's not, part seven talks about treatment facilities and what would be acceptable to me. Part eight talks about help from others. What would I need them to do? What happens when I'm not able to be home and take care of my house? Who will take care of my who's going to pick up my mail, who's going to pay my bills, who's going to walk my dog, who's going to feed my cat. All of those things are on here. And very specifically what people need to do. And I love that. It's an opportunity to be very, very specific. And again, this is all about self-determination and what I talked about earlier. And that this is really all about me. It also talks about in part eight, the things that others might do or have done in the past that would not help. So, for example, there were some things that some family members did that sort of did not make things helpful at all. When I was in rehab, my ex-sister-in-law wrote me a letter about how horrible of a person I was. I had to put that in here that that's not acceptable. Part nine. Hooray! In activating the crisis sign. These are signs that, or actions that indicate to my supporters that I'm okay and I don't need to use this plan anymore. And then finally, in the state of Pennsylvania, if this is signed by two witnesses, it is a legal document and it can serve as an actual advanced I'm thinking advanced level rep, advanced directive, and it's actually a legal document that hospitals and doctors and friends and family and whomever has access to your crisis plan need to follow. You don't need a notary in Pennsylvania as long as two witnesses sign it, but it never hurts to have a notary. And I just want to read that what happens when I inactivate this crisis plan. I say, I will want to leave the house. I will want to go to see friends. I will want to dress nice. I will want to see my kids. I will want to roller skate or do something fun. And I will probably want to leave the house for several hours at a time. And that would probably be a pretty big indicator that I'm doing really well. I have 2.5 minutes or 1.5 minute to talk about the post-crisis plan. Fortunately for me, I have not had to do this, but I filled it out to the best of my ability. And it talks about when I will know when the crisis plan is ready, how I would like to feel when I have recovered from a crisis, who is going to support me during this post-crisis part of my recovery, and how would I feel safe and secure in this part of post-crisis part of my recovery, who I would like to take me home, and what would I like to do when I get home? Do I want to get right into it? Do I want to start doing laundry? Do I want to, start cleaning the house, or do I want to rest? And I think that they're all important things to think about. And what would make me really happy upon my return, I said it would be a clean house, food in the fridge, and knowing that my family is taken care of. And things that I would like to take care of right away would be my bills and my correspondence, phone calls, and thank you cards. And then some things that while I'm getting back into the swing of things. What can people do for me? So I said, I might still want people to do a little cooking for me or helping with me with my laundry. Um, and then some things that can really wait until I feel better, and that could be work. It could be actually being supportive to some of my friends who may need me. Maybe that can hold off a little bit. And then it goes into things I need to do for myself every day, things I need to do every day while I'm recovering, people I need to avoid. It's a good one. Signs that I may be beginning to feel worse. So, signs that, hey, perhaps things were feeling really good, but right now they're feeling a little funky again. So, what do I need to do if that happens so I can, you know, stop it dead in its tracks? Wellness tools that I will use, again, going back to my wellness toolbox, and things I need to do to prevent further repercussions from this crisis. And when will I do these things? People I need to thank, how I'm going to thank them, people I need to apologize to, things I need to do to prevent further loss, signs that this post-crisis phase is over and I can just go back to using my daily maintenance plan as a guide to do things for myself. Changes in the first 4 sections of my wellness recovery action plan, changes in my crisis plan, changes that I want to make to my goals, my lifestyle or goals. And what did I learn from the crisis? How important is that? Changes that I need to make in my life as a result, when and how I will make these changes. Of course, I don't have these filled in, thank goodness, because I didn't have to. But it's there just in case I do. So I went over by 2 minutes, and I just wanted to say thank you very much for considering me to participate in your advanced level RAP facilitator. I have been here working for the Institute of Recovery with MHP for the last 3 months. And I actually this week have been observing the RAP 2 facilitation that they are currently doing, Jim Klassen and Karen Eskovitz. And so it's just been a really great experience so far. And I really hope to see y'all in January. Have a great day. Happy holidays.